Okay, Madam Chair, we are live.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, good evening, everyone. This is a meeting of the Youth Services, Education, and Libraries Committee, and I am the new chair, Stephanie Simone Mahaney. This is our first meeting of the season, so I would like to welcome our new committee members. We just saw Salah Al-Tayeb. He came and went, but welcome to Terry Brennan and Barbara Pollock. And thank you all, it's for the rest of the committee as well, for being here this evening. Tonight's meeting is informational only with one agenda item. And at the request of community board members, we will be reviewing the school utilization report for CB10, including student enrollment data for the last 5 years, and I hope also for the 2022-23 year. This evening, we welcome Steve Gonzalez from the School Construction Authority, or the SCA. The SCA is the authority that compiles the data for these utilization reports, and we expect that the SCA will be returning in the near future with a new school proposal. Therefore, we would like to have a better understanding of these numbers. So, Steve, if you would.
Okay, thank you very much. First of all, what I'm going to discuss is the overutilization numbers for CB10 for District 20 tonight. We've had a conversation and emails from Josephine over this past summer. And so I did contact her about a month or so ago. And I have some data that I will share. I'll read off notes. I will share before I do discuss that data that we anticipate the capital plan amendment to be released very soon. I do wish to share my screen to talk about the CEC 20 presentation that we did last year, and just show some numbers in terms of seat need in District 20. I do want to say that the seat need is not based on the community board, but based on sub-district. So I'm going to share my screen and I'll further explain on the seat need. Let's see here. All right, can you see it? Okay.
Yes.
You should be able to see it. Okay, so what I'm listing here, and this is District 20 seat need, proposed number of seats. Now, I'm going to go over the not cited seats because the cited seats are already accounted for. As you can see, there's 3 schools over in Dyker Heights and 1 in Owl's Head Park, Bay Ridge. The seat need that applies to Community Board 10, for the most part, because I do know that Community Board 10 does drift in a little bit into Dyker Heights, is the not cited seat need. And that is, if you look at the bottom, Owl's Head Park, Bay Ridge, we have a total number of seats for 744 seats alone in that area of Owl's Head Park and Bay Ridge. Now, having said that, the seat need, we anticipate, I can confidently say that the seat need will not change in the new capital plan, upcoming capital plan amendment. It will stay the same. So that I would just like to make note of that. So that's pretty much in terms of what I have in terms of a PowerPoint. So I'm going to share some notes and I'm going to read some notes. I'm going to stop sharing and go back. So what I wanted to talk about, first of all, schools located in Community Board 10 have historically been significantly and unfortunately have consistently overutilized on all levels. Now, we do acknowledge, the SCA, that enrollment has declined somewhat in the recent years, but I would like to point out that there's still overutilization on all levels that we do need to address. Now, when we do this overutilization data, we do this every year annually based on birth rates, immigration influx in the district, and on housing development. So we combine all those factors that lead into this utilization data. So we do believe that the decline that we have experienced over the last couple of years is partially due to COVID, and we do believe that this impact might be temporary. So again, as I mentioned before, our seat need is not identified by the community board, but by the sub-district. And as I mentioned, the Owl's Head Park, Bay Ridge falls under that parameters. So we do continue to project a seat need, as I mentioned before, in the upcoming plan amendment. So we do believe that tonight we're not prepared to do a formal review or present any future sites, perhaps in the near future. But we do believe that any future sites or any future facilities will benefit many families in the Owl's Head Park, Bay Ridge neighborhood, and would offer more physical space for more quality education options. So I'm going to read the utilization numbers that I have by level and year. Now, the first years I have is 2018, 2019. Public school utility utilization was 126%. Middle schools, 114. High schools, 160%. That means they're overutilized in terms of overcapacity. So there was a total overcapacity of 130%. The next year, 2019, 2020, public schools went up to 134%. Middle schools, 119. High schools, utility, 145, dipped slightly. Total utilization, 132%. Now, this is all based on Blue Book. I would like to point out that we did not publish the Blue Book numbers for utilization numbers for 2020, 2021 school year because of COVID. So the last year I have is last year's, which was 2021, 2022. Public schools was 111%. Middle school, 107. High schools was 104, and total utilization 107%. It's still over 100%. I do want to point out. I do want to make also point out some individual schools in the district in Owl's Head Park Bay Ridge subdistrict. I'll start with PS 170, 116%. 102 over by Ridge Boulevard, 114%. PS 185 over on 86th Street in Ridge, 118%. PS 264, 108%. The intermediate school we had, PSIS 30, 110 over on the old Green School, Green Church School, the Methodist Church. And then it's annexed down the block on Ovington, 135%. And if I go further down, PS 264 at 108 and PS 104 was 112%. So that's the data that I'm sharing with you this evening. So if you have any further questions.
Yeah. Stephanie, if you'd like, so Steve, so Community Board 10 is wholly within School District 20. And we encompass the neighborhoods of Bay Ridge, Dyker Heights, and Fort Hamilton.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
In District 10, but you know, I'm going to just show the committee members. I'm going to share my screen. Give me 1 second. So these here are the October 31st, 2021 utilization number of schools in Community District 10 to just share with the committee. So I know you gave the Bay Ridge schools, but this is the complete list of schools in the district.
Sure. Now I didn't go outside of Bay Ridge only because as I said, a good portion of the district is in the Bay Ridge area. But go ahead, that's fine.
Right. Yeah. So the reason, you know, and Stephanie, maybe we've talked a little bit about this with the committee, is that when the community board reviews a school site, we get many questions from board members as to what is the utilization rate? What does that mean exactly? And how does the school construction authority come up with that? Because when you come to the community board, typically you'll say we are planning a new school with X amount of seats because there's overcrowding in the district and we have this number identified as seats in need. And then we're also hearing, you know, widely in the news that enrollment is down. So tonight we really wanted to prepare, you know, as we prepare for, you know, a future presentation, so that we can share that with not only our committee members who are tasked with providing feedback and comments to the school construction authority, but really understanding where the need is in the district. So are you saying that the last enrollment data available is from October 31st, 21? There's no October 31st, 22 numbers yet available?
No, I don't have them yet. That's the latest that, in fact, I think the ones that you're showing up. Yeah, those are the latest numbers. That's what I have. Yep. The numbers you're showing are the same. I do not have updated numbers. As I said, I'm waiting for the capital plan amendment to come out, but it hasn't come out yet.
And do you expect those numbers to remain the same or increase or decrease? There was, I don't know if it was from the capital plan, but the projections over the next 10 years or now 9 years show decreasing trends in the numbers of seats needed.
Yes, but if, as I pointed out before, true, slightly they have decreased, but they're still over 100%. You see the list of schools that you've shown. Now, the only exception was, and that's because that they opened an addition last year, was PS 127. Even there, it's not a low number. It's 81%. So if you look at 127 addition, 127, it's 81, and that's because they opened an addition last year, and that's why that number is lower than the others. You look down, you go down the pipe, you look at every school, they're all over 100%. Some cases better than 110%. Even IS 259, well, McKinley, all right, it's 97%, but again, I mean, that's very close to 100. Same thing with telecom.
Right.
I mean, of course, that telecom's a high school, but I'm just talking, but in terms of the ISs and the PSs, there's still, you look at the PSs, they're all good over 100%. And
Right.
again, this is not just this district. We have one other district out in Staten Island, the same situation, but I'm just referring to here, to Bay Ridge.
Right. So
the
Steve,
District 20.
how does the school construction authority come up with the utilization number?
Yes, I'll repeat what I mentioned before. They look at a number of factors, Josephine. They look at birth rates. They look at immigration influx, the amount of residents who are moving into the district. They also look at housing development. They also look at that. Those are the three main factors that we look at. And we do this on an annual basis.
Okay, so what we did, Stephanie and I, we were looking at some old reports the
Sure.
last few weeks. And just for example, we had 3 recent schools that were constructed in Community District 10. PS 264 on 89th and 4th, PS 310, IS PS 30. These are 3 schools that were constructed in the last few years that I've been here, the last decade.
264 was built.
The last decade, what, 2009, yeah, right?
Yes, 2009. And look, 2009, and it's still over 100%. But yes,
Right.
264,
Right, so
310
264
was about 9-10 years ago too.
Oh, right, and ISPS 30, probably the same thing.
Yes.
So I went back to those folders, and just for example, when the School Construction Authority came to present about PS 264, the initial presentation was for a school to be built with 475 students. And now you look at the numbers for PS 264, and the number of enrollment is 368 with a target of 345.
Mm-hmm.
So does that mean that the plans had to change, and there had to be, there wasn't enough space to build all of those, anticipated seats of 475?
That I would have to check with capital planning, and I would have to check back with SCA.
Yeah, I mean, the same as
Off the top of my head, I wouldn't be able to answer that.
Right.
I would leave that to our capital planning folks at the SCA.
Yeah, and that's something we noticed in each of the schools that was presented to us. The current numbers,
I'm going to make note of it. So I'm just going to make.
are less, which so we wanted, when a presentation is made, how accurate is the proposed number of seats? I think that's a good question.
Well, I have to say that at the time that we do make the presentation, those are the number of seats that we were building for that school. So whatever we gave the number at the time was again, an accurate number. Now, why it's 368 now enrolled, I don't know. I'd have to find out. But that's what we project in terms of seat totals. That's, at the time that we make the presentation, and that's what we built the school on. We built it based on the total number of seats in terms of design.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah,
Sure.
we have two questions, Shirley and then Lori.
No problem.
Oh, okay. So, what I know is when you said cap is like kindergarten, the cap for each class is 25. And then from first grade to fifth grade is 32. So from kindergarten to fifth grade, 3 classes for each grade, that will be 555. So what's the difference between that cap to the target cap where we have 345?
All right, so I can't, I
involved
wouldn't be
in-
able to answer. That would be a District 20 planning answer. Okay, Lori's got her hand up.
I think I could answer some of this. For
Yeah, I'll leave it to Lori.
264 for 264 and 30, the total number of anticipated seats was probably higher because it included District 75.
Okay.
Okay, so District 75 is part of the school's community, but it's separate. It's counted under District 75. So that may be for those two.
As we're doing in the new schools that we're opening up and over at Nathan's and the one over at Angel Guardian Home.
Right.
There are-
So the
there are-
total, right, so the total
There is
number,
a D75 component in those two schools. I'm sorry,
right,
go
so if the
ahead.
total number is, for example, 500 anticipated seats and 50 are given to District 75, you're lowering the number by that. Plus, then you're lowering your number of how many students can be in the community school because the District 75 needs to have office space and therapy rooms.
Yes,
So it minuses it even more.
So
Like,
those
for-
numbers are not included in this, the District 75 schools.
Right, because when like.
they're
for
probably
example-
not. I think
I
Lori's right.
understand.
They're
Okay,
probably not,
Right.
they're probably not
Thank
you.
in that total.
Right.
Thank you,
It's like
Lori.
when, no problem, like when you walk into the new IS 30 building, the Green Church, down that corridor is all District 75.
Yes, I was just
So-
thinking of IS 30.
Right.
Mhm.
So if you have 6 classrooms, then you also have all the therapy rooms that go with it. So now you're losing maybe another 5 or 6 rooms that would have been for classrooms in 30. Is
Okay.
that okay?
understand. Thank you.
For example, in the Nathan School, the IS that we're building on 86th, there I believe is a total number of 552 seats approximately, and we're adding another over 50, 60 D75. Originally, we were not putting that D75 in that school, but because of advocacy from D75 parents in the district, we decided we're moving D75 students in that school. We have 96 D75 alone at the future PS 676 over on Angel Guardian home, former Angel Guardian home property.
Okay, so in speaking to that, just to share with the committee, there are 4 new schools in the Pike. A 592 seat middle school at the old Nathan site at 650 86th
Yeah,
Street.
59. Okay. Mhm.
322 seat pre-K through 5 at 6740 Third Avenue.
Yes, that's the old doctor's office,
Office?
and there are no D75s to my knowledge in that school.
Okay, a 676 primary school to be located at 6301 12th Avenue, which is the old Angel Guardian home site.
Yes, yes.
And 572 seat primary school at the old Santander Bank site, which is 8802 Fifth Avenue.
I would
And-
I would also like to interject, if I may, Josephine. We have not begun design on that school, and we do not yet know it's a PS or IS. We don't know what, in terms of what we'll be putting there yet. So I just want to make note of it. And the other item, and I know that it's not a PSIS, but it's a D75, is the old Our Lady of Guadalupe. That's 132 D75 seats alone. And
Okay.
that's also opening in September 2024.
Right, and also impacting Community Board 10. There is a new school that was opened on 60th Street and Third Avenue. That is a new school that opened up. And the St. Rosalia site, there's an additional site that's a little bit outside of Board 10, but right at our border.
That's
which
in
is-
Laurie's community board.
Right,
Yes.
380 seats. I believe that's proposed. Is that still happening? The St. Rosalia site?
I don't have any further updates. I do know that it's no longer a COVID site.
Right.
So, but I don't have any further updates on that.
Just to add on to that, Josephine, that St. Rosalia site would have a direct impact on CB10 schools like PS 176.
Which is
Yes, that's in close proximity.
Yeah, St. Rosalia would have a
Still
direct
Rosalia.
impact on a CB10 school, even though St. Rosalia is in CB11.
right.
PS 176,
Captain,
that's been historically so overcrowded, it would help.
All right, somebody's asking, I'm not familiar with D75.
Ah,
Yeah,
yes.
D75 is District 75. These are special ed students. Just for those who don't know what D75 stands for, it's for those who are physically challenged students that are in the district and
Yes, and-
citywide.
And Julie, there are the Angel Guardian site was divided into 3 sections. One section was developed into condominiums. The other section one section is yeshiva, that's the landmark portions, and the third
Mhm.
portion was sold to the School Construction Authority. I see Terry Brennan has her hand raised.
You're on mute.
I can't hear her. She's still.
Terry, you're still muted.
Am I
Okay,
good now?
Yes.
So a few things. Looking at birth rate, immigration, and whatever the third thing was.
Housing developments.
Okay,
Housing.
so that doesn't help us with the older kids. The birth rate doesn't help us figure out the high school needs because that can change next year. So as I'm listening to this and looking at the numbers, there definitely seems to have been a drop off with COVID, with people moving, people keeping kids home, people going to private school. Has the CEC or anybody done any kind of study to inquire of parents if their needs are going to change, if people are going to move back to public school? We know there's a lot of flux in the neighborhood. As people are moving out, people are moving in. There's a lot of new housing going up. There's a lot of that. I'm a little concerned when I see that a school dropped from 165% to 125% or whatever the number was. That's not a normal drop off. That's a causation kind of drop off, and causes can change. So
Yes.
I'm a little concerned that we're looking at enrollment based on COVID numbers, because that's what these are, right? We're looking at pre-COVID and COVID, but we're not looking at post-COVID yet, which we probably won't know for another year as things settle down.
That would be a fair statement.
So it seems a little weird to me to be planning based like, yes, we'll absorb all these seats and we'll be great, as long as nobody else moves to the neighborhood. Am I making sense? Or moves back to public school, or, I spend a lot of time on Facebook in different groups. I see people talking about, we moved out to Long Island and now we're looking to move back. And I would anticipate seeing, a fair amount of that. And Bay Ridge is expensive, but it's definitely more affordable than some other neighborhoods. People are going to start moving in. So, I mean, the overpopulation of Fort Hamilton is huge, and looking at birth rate numbers and immigration doesn't really address that. So anyway, I feel like we need more factors. I would love to see the CEC, reach out to local parents and do a study. Where are your kids? Where do you anticipate them being in the next couple of years? You have new kids coming along. I know that's not our job, but maybe we could work with the CEC to do something like that. And by the way, I do write surveys and I'm happy to volunteer some time.
Can I throw something in
Terry.
about that?
Sure.
When it comes to the high schools the high schools are on a city-wide level. So the local CEC does not touch the high school piece of it all. They only touch K-8 elementary and junior highs and K-8 schools. So the high school piece is really not under their jurisdiction. It is there's a citywide council for high schools that oversees all the high schools. So that's not something that the local CEC normally gets involved with when it comes in terms of high schools and whether or not there's a demand and so forth. I mean, they can make a position known, but they really don't get involved heavily with the high school piece of it.
So would they be able to share information if they gathered it?
But they wouldn't gather it for the high school.
Okay.
What I'm saying is that they only go up to the 8th
Right.
grade. You know what I
I-
mean?
Yeah, I understand. I just am a
What
little
she's saying, what
frustrated
Lori's
that-
saying, that there's a citywide
I
for
understand.
high
that.
schools.
I
and they
understand
cover it.
that. I'm just
Okay,
a little frustrated that nobody seems to be doing this.
Yeah, I think Terry, what we're hearing, at our last meeting, that was a siting meeting, what we heard were, parents who were saying, this was at the Santander site, we should be looking at high school need, because there's a clear need at Fort Hamilton with such a high rate, and that was brought up, certainly, because there were so many schools in the vicinity, and I'm showing on the screen in blue are all current schools, public schools within Community District 10, both grammar and middle schools. The red are approved new school sites, and the yellow were new or under construction that border CB10. So that question was raised when we reviewed the Santander Bank site, and we were told that the need identified in the capital budget is exclusive to both middle schools and K-5 schools. So you could see that bunching, the schools in the lower hand, that's where the Santander site is, and there's PS 264 nearby.
yes, and
PS
104 is down the block.
104.
Yes,
Right, so that was raised as well in the, northern part of Bay Ridge. And there's real overcrowding in Dyker Heights in the northern part, because there's been a big immigration wave in the northern section of Dyker Heights. Jane, you have your hand raised?
Yes, I just wanted to add that I believe it was the November calendar meeting of the Citywide Council on High Schools, where it had been shared by CEC 20 that the need for a new high school in our community, or the need for more seats in District 20, was going to be part of that discussion. I did not attend. I don't know if when Dr. Preto joins, he might be able to add to that, but it has come up numerous times from our families about the needs for high schools. And so I know that this has been raised previously. And we're so fortunate that Lori Windsor was able to join us tonight, because Lori, in her many years as CEC president, literally would go around the neighborhood looking at sites. And I was one of those principals who would send her addresses and, what do you think about this? And what do you think about that, about how we could find more seats for our district. Like on that initial proposals, Lori and Steve were with me at that time. 310 was originally proposed to be an annex for PS 69 to relieve our overcrowding.
yes, I
then
do
with the new-
remember. Yes,
Right, but then with the new mayor and new chancellor, standalone schools were the way to go. And so we wound up with a lot of little small schools.
mhm.
And very small schools, some of them like under 500, under 400 as their estimated size, which is very challenging to run a school with, and have all the programs you need to have and the programming for our children with such small numbers. So, we really give kudos to our administrators who are doing that. But unfortunately, sometimes the placement where there is availability, where there is space to build, is not necessarily in the populated, densely populated areas. And so this is one of the challenges. This is one of the needs. I'm sorry, my husband will get the phone. This is one of the challenges, and one of the needs that we've had to address and deal with in the community as well.
I'd like to note that, Jane, I was going to partially agree with you. I was going to bring up the fact, the reason why, and for good reason why we had to find smaller school sites is because of the availability of real estate.
Right.
And you alluded to it, and I thank you
Yeah.
for that. And that's how we found 310 and how we found the doctor's office at 6740 3rd Avenue. It's tough. Look, we have a very active real estate division, and Lori knows that. And Lori was on the phone with me many, many times. Her and the former superintendent, Karina,
Yes.
trying to find sites. It's difficult in Bay Ridge. It really is, in terms of cost, in terms of space, square footage.
But Steve, if there is a clear need or a greater need, in, let's say, the Northern District of CB10 or District 20, will you still continue to saturate, let's say, our area of Bay Ridge? There's so many schools that have been built or have been
Yeah, as I
extended.
mentioned before, I'm looking at Owl's Head Park. I cited the number. We still have 744 seats that we need to find. Yes, we will continue. Absolutely.
Even if is there such a thing as oversaturation in one area, even if you have other districts that are clearly in greater need, can it not be distributed? Can the seats not be distributed more?
That's something that I would have to talk to capital planning about.
Right. So and when you say Owl's Head, what is the geographic boundaries of
Yeah.
that identified seat need? I think that's really important, because when you look at the map, you see that there is a group of schools to the north, a group of schools to the kind of southern portion of the district, and then in the Dyker Heights section, which is what we've really seen a population boom. We don't, we still see PS 310, which is a new school, at 170%.
Okay, so
Where
yeah, so let me,
I'm not
ahead.
seeing that same overutilization. For example, PS 102, which I would say is, near Owl's Head. It's in the northern part
Yeah,
of
yes.
Bay Ridge.
That's
Um,
114%.
It's at 114, but that's not 170%.
Yeah.
No, but it's
um,
still over
you know,
100%.
and-
It's
and-
still, okay,
right,
go ahead.
But we have a seat, we have a school coming up, 6740 3rd Avenue on Senator Street with 322 seats. We have the new school site on 60th Street and 3rd Avenue with several hundred seats to that school. And I know that those district boundary lines have changed. So these numbers will change. And it was, when we looked at that site at 6740 3rd Avenue, it was specifically to address PS 102 and that northern part of the district's, over capacity. So I guess what we're trying to prepare for is when we, as we begin to plan as a board and we want to advocate for where our need is. We heard that when we review the Santander Bank site, where is our need? And are we building schools? Are we redistricting areas where we will satisfy that need? So that's kind of where that question comes from.
I would like to point out that there are 3 sub-districts. You asked me about Owl's Head Park, Bay Ridge. So there are 3 sub-districts in District 20.
Okay.
Sub-district 1, I already mentioned, it's Owl's Head Park and Bay Ridge. Sub-district 2 is Dyker Heights. And sub-district 3 is Borough Park, Kensington, and Bensonhurst, which are part of District 20, believe it or not. The northern part of sub-district 3 goes all the way and borders District 22 and District 22. There are portions of District 20, there's schools that are very close to Ocean Parkway, and that's up in sub-district 3. So District
Okay.
20 is a huge, it's, as I said, it's a huge district.
Yeah.
And it's,
Do you have the sub boundary? So Owl's Head Park. So is that from Shore Road to
yeah, Shore
7th
Road.
Avenue?
Let's go, I'm sorry, what was the last?
Shore Road to 7th Avenue?
Yeah, 7th, I'm not sure it goes up to 7. It may go to, I believe it's at Sunset Park. I'm not sure where, because there are few schools in Sunset Park, like PS 314.
Yeah, no,
Uh,
we are aware of that.
270, yeah. I want to say it's part of sub-district 1, but I'm not totally sure. But yes, Shore Road, yes, you could say that's part of the Owl's Head part. That's part of the sub-district 1, yes. Mhm.
Okay, and then Diker Heights would be, because
Yes.
our boundaries of Diker Heights are from the highway to 14th Avenue in District 10.
But you have a small portion of Diker Heights, do you not? I
We
believe
have
you.
all of Diker Heights in Board 10, pretty much. I mean,
Okay.
I would say 90% of Diker Heights is in.
Okay, you do it.
Board.
Okay, because I know Committee Board 11 goes into Diker Heights.
Right. Lori, where is the Bensonhurst beginning boundary? What avenue is, I'm not as familiar. I know that 14th Avenue,
Well, 14's our cutoff because you're the
14,
one
right,
side of
14's our
14th and we're the
cut-
other
no,
side of 14th.
right, that I know, but where does Diker Heights, the 28, I think it's 15th Avenue. So I guess we're 95% Diker Heights. In Board 10.
Can I just throw something on before
Sure.
what Jane was saying?
Sure.
There was a meeting a few weeks ago with the chancellor, town hall for District 20, and it came up about the high school piece. And parents were complaining how overcrowded the high schools that are in District 20 are. And what he said was that Brooklyn, because high schools are looked at as a citywide, all of Brooklyn is not overutilized when it comes to high schools. And he asked that parents send to him recommendations as to where they think help is needed. Even though this was being
If
held
I
in
may
20.
add, and I want to add what Lori just said, I will tell you this, that the SCA does not see a seat need, and it's something similar to what the chancellor said for high school seats in Brooklyn. So I will state that right now.
Also, we all, some of us who go back, we've heard the story of Sunset Park High School that took 38 years of advocacy to build. That was 38 years in the making to get that school built. So the whole thing was that the high school process changed where anybody from anywhere, wherever you live, can go to any high school in the city. So you don't have to go to your local district. So that's why it's looked like that.
Mhm.
But, I'm going to bring up some old news that I know SCA got mad at me for this when I called 971 and 310 Band-Aids because they were just so small. And this is what's happening at 6740 3rd Avenue. And also Santander, that's bigger. But going back a few years ago, both sites came up to us and we turned them down. And we turned down 6740 because it was so small and it was such an oddly shaped package also in addition. So it makes it a little bit harder to build more capacity. But that one that was Dashi. And we had no, we're not putting another little small school because like Jane said, you have something going on like at 310 where they have a multi-purpose room that's being used for everything under the sun. And so, maybe that's why their capacity numbers, their overutilization is up because they're packing kids into those multi-purpose rooms, which we know over the years has been done. So I'm just mentioning that because there is history with those two sites in particular. Santander, we really didn't like the site because it's like literally one block from 264 and 2 blocks down from 104 in that area. Well, at the time, another school private was going to go up and that was just going to make it even worse. Plus we have the pre-K center, the overflow site at the district office. So you're talking 3 sites and then add a 4th on. It's just going to be a nightmare at that location. And that's why back then we were like, we're not in favor of that site. And what Steve said is and Jane said it too, it's really true. We've had an issue about finding sites where we needed them. And that's always been an issue. In Jane's neck of the woods in the Chinatown area, we needed
Yes,
so
very difficult.
badly there. And we couldn't find anything because we all knew, like the supermarket, Jane, it never even made it to the market. It never even came on market to even have a
Is
conversation.
that the supermarket behind your school? Is that the school?
Yeah,
What?
we
Yes.
wanted that very badly and Lori.
It never came up.
calling everybody.
No, it was just a deal, it was just done and between businessmen and that was it. We never
Right.
even had an opportunity. So, and Steve knows that very well. We never could find these sites. where we
Mhm.
actually needed them. So they had to be a little bit off from where we really needed them, and then we had to rezone.
Look, we tried to
So-
get we
Right.
tried to find that site in Borough Park, remember? And that got shut down.
Yeah,
We tried to find we had an excellent site, a building which is now, I think, a senior citizens building. Correct? On Borough, over on I want to say Fort Hamilton Parkway. Is that the one? Is that the one?
I remember the other big one that was huge, that
The
was a
community
warehouse.
board, the community, it wasn't you that turned it down, it was the other one, Community Board 12. I think they turned it down. That was a number of years ago.
Yeah, I mean, then there was another site that was beautiful, it was huge, but we couldn't build because it had been, we couldn't build in that site. We would have had to tear down everything, and it was just, the cost was ridiculous, because it had been a dry cleaning plant.
Right.
And I
Oh,
think now-
yes.
Remember, and now there's a private.
I
school
do.
there. Right,
Yeah.
and that would have been a beautiful site, would have relieved so
know.
much of our overcrowding, but it just wasn't feasible. It's just that these sites haven't been where we actually always needed them. That's been the problem all along.
Right. Well, I mean, I think we could speak to now that the 65th Street corridor in the northern part of the district probably has the largest available lots. And we expect that to grow as, this board has, recently in the last few years did a report on the 65th Street corridor. If you drive down, portions of 65th Street in that northern part of the district, you have former manufacturing sites that are larger sites that potentially could be utilized. And that really, what we're hearing on the ground is that that area has the strongest need right now, and certainly a community that's in need for sure. And I think that's reflected in the data. But you'll see there are gathering sites, and I think, it's important as those questions are raised down the road, as we review sites to really understand and be able to communicate that to the public. And that's the primary reason why we're here tonight, is that was the request that was made, and we want to really get a handle on how these numbers have changed and what the projections are. And that might be, the need for a survey, and perhaps we could talk to the district about that. And I thought that was a good idea that Terry raised. Jane, you have your hand raised?
Yeah, I just, Steve, now that you explained a little bit more about the sectors, and I think that it helped to give everybody a better understanding of the SCA. If you could go back to your first slide that you shared, the first piece that you shared, it spoke in terms of those sectors.
All right,
So
hold- let me
when,
go back,
sure,
see if I can get back there now.
where you had cited and not cited. So that this way. if
Yeah,
we
I got
can
it.
go
Okay.
back-
I'm
Yeah,
going to go back to it. Yes.
Thank you.
There it is. Go
Okay.
ahead.
So when we look at the not cited, so just to just share out with the committee again.
Those
so
are
there-
sites that are not cited. We don't have sites in those areas.
Right, so you list project numbers, number 4, number 9 in Kensington, Borough Park, Kensington, Bensonhurst. So that's where that's where you're trying to state that there is a need for 451 seats. and
Correct.
685 seats.
865,
up in that-
I'm sorry, 865.
Yes, so that's up in that sector. So then when we're talking about the next two numbers that say Dyker Heights, so then again, Josephine, where you were alluding to the areas of Dyker Heights that are more densely populated, those are listed as projects 1 and 2. Those have about another 700 plus, 800 plus seats, 369 and 451. Do you see that? And
Yeah.
then where it says Owl's Head Park Bay Ridge, that's where there's a total need for 744 seats. So I think that when they're looking at the map like this, that if the site for Bay Ridge, Owl's Head, looking down at the bottom, you're saying that 6740 3rd Avenue will address 307 of those potential seats in the area.
No. What I'm saying is the 307 is already cited. The
So
744 is not.
So this is not including those that are at
That
the
is
bottom.
correct. It's not including those that are
Okay.
cited. No.
But then
Okay,
it wouldn't include
You're-
Santander because Santander is not in the capital plan yet. So if Santander has whatever 500 seats, then that would take away from that 744 number.
Right,
Right.
Santander is not in the capital plan yet.
right. And then I'm just trying to look at what you have down as cited at the bottom. So that the first one, D75 school at 72nd Street, that's what we've been referring to as the Angel Guardian site, correct?
Mm,
No.
Where would, no, that's
No,
Our
that's Our
Lady
Lady
of
of
Guadalupe.
Guadalupe, and that's an 11. Our
That's
Lady
in
of
the-
Guadalupe.
Yeah,
Oh,
Our Lady
this
of
is
Guadalupe.
Got it. So the first one was Guadalupe, the second one is Nathan's, the third one, 6312 13th Avenue
That's
is
Angel
also-
Guardian Home.
Angel Garden.
That's the Angel Guardian, I'm sorry. And
That's
then the
okay.
last one
It's
being
fine.
Senator Street.
Yeah.
Okay? So I just thought it was like necessary to review this because it was shared at first. And I think that people had like a lot of questions around it, and I hope that it helped to provide a little bit of clarity. So
Fair enough.
thank you for reviewing that with everyone.
Not a problem.
So
very
it's a
welcome.
possible, once St. Rosalia goes online, that maybe that Dyker Heights number will go down in the proposed number of seats.
Right. And the Santander site, that'll reduce the Owl's Head Bay Ridge numbers. Okay, got it.
Right. It's just unfortunate that it's not necessarily geographically, like people maybe who are living on, 89th Street area might need more seats, but the seats are actually going to be down further by 67 or vice versa. Like that's part of the challenge. And that's why we've all been rezoned so many times. Lori, I think I'm up to like about my 8th rezoning or 9th. I can't even count anymore. But yeah, because to address that.
Okay, Terry, you have your hand raised? Board member Terry Brennan.
I know that the DOE has very strict policies on school transfers. And I'm wondering if one of the reasons we're sort of crowded up here is because there's less schools down there.
Mhm.
And if they build schools down there, parents may want to reverse the commute so that they aren't commuting up here. But if the DOE policy is still, you can only transfer if your kid's being bullied or, you can't just transfer very easily. So I'm wondering if that is something we could put pressure on to reconsider. I mean, if there's a school built down the block from you, you may not want to travel a mile anymore. You may want to go to the school down the block.
They do, when they do the rezoning, the people who live closest to that school will go to that school.
Even though it's all about applying to schools.
Well, that's high schools, which is not something that's part of,
No, they don't apply to elementary and middle school.
no, you go by zone. It's strictly based on your address.
Because there are people in Bay Ridge commuting all over the place.
If
So
they're
probably-
commuting, it may be because they apply to a gifted and talented program, and so they choose to do that.
Okay.
So like, for example, I'm zoned to, PS 170, they don't have a gifted and talented program. So I have my child tested and I make it into a program at PS 204 in Bensonhurst. And then it's my decision to go across the district to take them there.
I mean, I see parents debating all the time among just elementary schools in our area.
Well,
Where
there's
to send-
also there's also a habit of, addresses being used too.
Interesting, thanks.
Julie had a question. She asked completion of what, you said the other schools, you mean the ones that are cited, Julie?
Yes, I meant the Santander location
Oh, I don't have it. We don't have a projected date yet.
and, okay, and the
Yeah, no.
the other ones are under construction now.
That is correct. Those are all
Yeah.
September 2024.
They're all for 24.
Yes,
Okay. Thank you.
you're very welcome.
Okay. Chair Mahaney,
Are there any more questions?
I don't see any.
Are we still waiting for Dr. Preto or?
But I don't
Okay.
think so. Jane, I guess we could
I
update him
guess-
on the meeting.
Right, I didn't
That's
hear
the-
back from him. We could update
Okay.
him and send him the link to the recording on YouTube.
Yep, very
Okay.
good. All righty.
All right. So if
So
there are
Thank
no
you
other,
very much. Thank you
Oh.
very much for giving me the opportunity today on behalf of the SCA. It was a very, very good, constructive meeting.
we
Thank you.
appreciate that, Steve, but I see a question from Barbara.
Yes.
Sorry, didn't see that. Barbara?
Oh, you're on mute still?
Okay, can you hear
Okay.
me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. Do we still have sibling variances in the district?
I couldn't answer that. Maybe Lori might. I can't. I wouldn't be able to answer it.
Does anybody know about sibling variances?
No, but I could get you that answer, Barbara. I will get that answer for you, okay?
Yep,
That would be a District 20 question.
I will ask and get back to you.
Okay.
All right,
So-
Stephanie, did we
Okay.
have a motion to adjourn?
Is there a motion to adjourn?
Yep, I see
From
Barbara
Barbara, and a
Gurman.
second.
Yes, very good.
Okay, Shirley, thank you so much, Steve. We appreciate your time and all the information. And to the committee, thank you for your support this evening. Have a wonderful night.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Stephanie, Josephine, and everyone.